Excuse me, sir.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. YouTube live has been started, sir. So I think participants are joining. Shall I start, sir?
Sure, please. Absolutely.
Yeah. So very good afternoon to all of you. I, Preeti, cordially welcome you all to the fourth day of 1 week faculty development program, which is organized by Sher-e-Kashmir University of Agricultural Sciences and Technology, Team Just Agriculture, and Agro-Environmental Education Farmers Welfare Society, Punjab. For the first talk today, we have with us Dr. Balaji Vasudevan. He is currently a chief scientist at AgroBiosciences at UM6P Ventures, based at Morocco in Africa. He is a globally recognized agri-tech leader. He has over 20 years of agri-tech research experience in industry and academia combined. Sir has earned his PhD in plant biotech from Madurai Kamaraj University, India. Sir has worked in 5 agtech industries in USA and India and at 3 globally reputed universities also. He has 17 referred international publications in the top plant science journals like Nature Communications and Nature Scientific Reports, etc. Sir is also an advisor, science consultant for global agri-tech companies. His expertise are in agri-food tech, agrobacterium biology, agrobacterium plant interactions, crop transformation, genome editing, cell biology, plant tissue culture, disease diagnostics, molecular plant microbiome interactions, plant pathology, plant molecular biology, gene silencing, RNA biopesticides, plant molecular farming, then agtech business marketing for market, competitive intelligence, impact investing. Sir has also been a keynote speaker for global universities. He has been a panelist, agri-tech startup mentor. He has been an scientific forum advisor, editor for scientific journals, peer reviewer for agtech science journals, blog and white paper contributor also. So we are extremely happy to have you here, sir. Without any further delay, I would invite you to the podium, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Preeti and Utkarsha and all the Just Agriculture team for extending an invite and also for having me in this today's meeting. And I'm extremely delighted to be here and share my thoughts and what are the experience I have gained, particularly from a research paper standpoint, because this particular presentation is going to be on a research paper on how you are to approach in writing a research paper or a review, or in general communication about your scientific research to your general audience. It could be in the form of review or paper or white paper, blog, or whatever it is. It's all about communication. So I will share my experience and what I have learned with you, so that it could be helpful for somebody who is starting their career in ag-tech or agri-food tech or in general research. So without further ado, I would again thank Just Agriculture and the team for having me. And then I would like to now share my presentation. And then please let me know if you can see my screen once I share. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to enlarge the thing view. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
Okay.
So please keep it on
sure.
slideshow mode, sir.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, the title of today's talk is going to be how to write the research paper and how to publish it in what are the journals you kind of intend to. So it's about improving the writing skills of early career researchers. And as Preeti introduced, I'm currently at UM6P Ventures as an AgroBioscience chief scientist, on top of other things I do. So before we go a little bit deep into what is this research publication and how to approach a research publication from a writing standpoint, and these days, whether you are on research or whether you are outside of your research, it doesn't matter. The communication is the key, whatever the field of work you may be in. So communication is the most important thing these days. And it could be in the form of a research paper or in the form of white paper or a blog or a social media communication or delivering a lecture, a keynote speaking, panel member, whatever the way it is or the form it is, the precise and concise and communication to the target audience is the key. So that's why effective communication is an essential part of the scientific endeavor. So or people who are either who are starting their career like MS or a PhD student, or some other experienced person who are in the different levels of the career, all should learn to be an effective communicator to be successful. And I would like to share some of my research communications. As Preeti introduced, when I was used to work in R&D in both, particularly in universities and non-profit research institutes, I had the opportunity to work and publish about 17 research papers. I have listed few with the top impacts, such as Nature Communication, which is the impact of 17, and Plant Cell, and Plant Physiology, and Plant Journal, and Nature Scientific Reports. And these are some of the widely reputed journals in the AgTech and the Agri-Food Tech space. And also, in addition to publishing papers, I had the opportunity to be invited as a reviewer to review the papers that is submitted for publication in all the 8 listed journals, like starting from Plant Cell Reports, Theoretical and Agriculture Genetics, Plant Cell Tissue and Organ Culture, Phytoparasitica, Bioprotocol, and Physiological Molecular Plant Pathology, and International Journal of Plant Biology. And also, I'm in the editorial board of a couple of journals like Plant Science Journals and Research in Plant Biology. And also, I have the 2 patents that is being filed. So in addition to near publications and review, there are also other ways or other means of communication, research communication, like I listed. So I'm involved in as a keynote speaker, as an organizing committee member for research conferences, and scientific advisory board member for many of the companies, and the social media promotion of the companies, in writing white paper about the AgTech and Agri-Food Tech landscape, and blogs, and also serve as a judge in Agri-Food Tech events, and a panelist and a moderator, and also scientific due diligence for many startups who are seeking funding from investors, and help many of the startups in kind of formulating a science pitch deck, and also putting together a proposal for organizing Agri-Food Tech conferences, global conferences. So when it comes to research topic selection, so with the key, one of the key aspect in writing a research paper that is for publication is, what is that you want to write about? What is the topic you want to work on a research, and then write about that. So research topic selection is one of the key aspect of the research paper publication. So when it comes to research topic selection, the first thing is that you need to devise define a research domain and conduct a literature search, and then discover what is going on in the current landscape, by attending conferences, workshop, AgTech events. By going to all these events, either virtual or in person, you talk to other people and learn what is going on in the landscape, and what is current, and what is the most important thing that people are talking about from a research standpoint, from an investment standpoint, from an industry standpoint. So you can get an idea about what is the topic being discussed. So, and then you can either increase your interest on a given topic, or at least you can start developing interest about a given topic, and also find out what is your strength. And most important thing is that after kind of navigating what is the research topic, you want to know what is the problem you want to solve. And that topic, a research topic that you want to write about, should be something that you should be really interested in. It's not like somebody forcing you to do, or because somebody is doing, so you want to do. So it's not about that. You should have absolute passion and interest in the research topic that you are trying to write about, and you have to kind of ask questions about the research topic to yourself. Whether is this topic relevant to current landscape, and who is going to be the target audience, and whether this research topic is going to have some kind of downstream effect on the target audience. So this kind of brainstorming should be done by you, and also you can talk to other people like peers and your friends, or somebody who is a little bit experienced, so that they can give their inputs. So and also the topic, whatever you're going to choose or write about, should be supplemented by strong scientific data. It's not like just you can write some theory on that. It should have some scientific data which is supported by the material availability. When it comes to how to define a research topic, as I said, you want to first think what is the problem you are trying to solve, and who is your target audience, why is this problem important, and if is there anybody who has already provided some kind of solution in the form of research and research paper to this problem. If they have already done, how is your solution or your research paper going to be different from them? Is there anything new in your approach compared to what is being done or what was already published? And time, how about time, how long it's going to take in order to find the research topic, analyze and write about that, and how can you demonstrate that it is going to be a good solution? So you have to ask all these questions and find an answer to all these questions yourself or by talking to others who are more experienced than you, and then decide on a research topic. And then once you kind of almost there to a research topic, then you ask the question, why is this research topic, and how it is important. So you have to do some considerable research about your topic and gather all the relative data. And before kind of finalizing a research topic, because anybody who wants to write a paper on a research topic, they actually have some 2 or 3 or 4 kind of topics or area to do research. But you cannot be spending time on all the 4, right? You want to identify the one that is the most important. So you have to do background research and then analysis, self-analysis, to identify and narrow down to a particular topic that will kind of that answer to all the questions you have in your mind. And also it should have interest to the target audience, and it should also be useful. Yeah. So as I said, target audience, when it comes to audience of the key, right? If you write a research paper and then if it is not well received, not well read by by the audience, or not acknowledged by the audience, then it's not of much use. So you have to know who is your target audience, to whom you are writing, or who is going to read your paper once it gets accepted and published in a journal. So identifying the target audience is very key. I have kind of written down who are all the target audience. It could be researchers or research managers, when it comes to industry, or university faculty. It could be students. It could be sometimes some of the research communication could be targeted towards policymakers. So there's somebody in the government who is taking some important decision based on the data available. For example, importing a certain seed, or a regulatory approval for some techniques, like for example GMO approval or gene editing or some pesticide approval. So all these regulatory decisions by the government is based on the data provided by the scientific community. And donors, and then government research coordinating committees, technicians, commercial interests in the form of industry people, or sometimes some of the extension papers. There are many extension papers, magazines out there which target farmers, because farmers gets inputs for what is going on in the industry and for learning the innovations of the novel discoveries through the extension magazines. And some of the research papers or the research articles are targeted mainly towards the industry with the reference to innovation, the technology, what's going on in the landscape. So there are a wide variety of audiences. So you have to clearly understand which audiences you are trying to target by way of your research paper. And that is one of the key aspect of writing a paper. And when it comes to research communication, I told you in the previous slide, I kind of listed out the different types of audiences for research paper. And when it comes to when you want to write a research paper, there are many avenues of writing and publishing your communication. Two that include, your research paper could go into journals, or it could be for a review, or it could be in the form of short communication, or just a conference paper or posters, your theses, books and book chapters in a journal or in a book, or annual reports, working papers, newsletters, project proposal, project reports, for sometimes websites, blogs, white paper, and sometimes some discussion groups. So there are several avenues for research communication that is listed out there. So you have to find out which one of them fits to your data, what are the data you have, what are the research paper you want to write. So you have to find out which is the most appropriate one, and then you have to orient your writing towards that, because each one of them, for example, if you want to write a paper to a journal, that is different from writing a review, which is different from writing a white paper, because each one of them has their own style and the own limit. For example, a journal could be a 10 page limit, or reviews could be a 15-page limit. White paper could be very short compared to a journal or reviews. It is just a 4 paper or five paper, or even 6 paper pages. So and the newsletters are much shorter. So you have to orient your ideas and thoughts to the target research communication which you kind of choose, which is based on your target audience. For example, journals is mostly towards the scientific community, and if you write white papers is kind of a general thing which can go to industry, government, university, and many other areas. And blogs, for example, to the new set of generations. So you have to kind of fix what is that you want to write, and what is your research communication is going to be. So as I said, when you go a little bit deep dive into research communication, as I said in the previous slide, for example, if you take a research paper, if you see, and who is the audience? They are all researchers within the university or the non-profit institutes. It could be faculty, students, lecturers, PhD students, postdocs, managers, and everybody comes into the research community. And when you see what is the amount of technical content that goes into writing a research paper, it's very high. Then the 1 means high and the 7 means low. It's 1. That means it's very high. For example, if you take short communications, which is not a full-length research paper, it's just 1 or 2 pages. There, the technical content is not that high; it's in the medium range. And if you take, for example, the websites, which is oriented towards a general public, there you cannot write everything technical because it's a general public. That means technical content should be reduced, and it should be written in a simpler of the languages, avoiding all those technical jargons, because some of the general public may not understand the scientific terms and the jargon. So there you have to modify your writing in a different way. So based on what is your target final communication, you have to kind of modulate the amount of technical content that goes into your final research output, either it's a paper or a journal or a book chapter, depending on your target audience. And when the next step in writing a paper is, after kind of finalizing what is that you want to write about on a given topic, and also you choose who is going to be your audience, and what kind of communication you are interested in, either in the form of a journal or a review or a website or a blog. Then the next step comes, what type of journal you want to choose in order to publish your research paper, or you want to submit your research paper. And there are quite a lot of journals these days compared to when I was a student 20 years back. The number of journals were okay at the time, but now there are so many journals you can choose from that will fit to your ideas and your research paper. And these journals are classified as high impact journals, medium impact, and low impact, depending on the impact factor. And every one of the researcher wants to publish their paper in high impact, no doubt about that. Something like Nature, Science, which is all high impact journals and widely circulated and internationally reputed. But you have to remember that publishing in high impact journals is very important, but at the same time, your data should be high class or a world class, because the rejection rate by these high impact journals is very high. They don't accept all the publications. They accept only very few publications of very high standard. So you have to do your homework on what kind of journals you want to choose, where your research ideas and thoughts and your paper you are writing will fit in. And you can do the research, you can come to a conclusion on your own, and also you can try to discuss with other experienced professionals who have kind of a lot of experience in publishing research in many journals for their feedback. So I kind of put this cartoon to show what are the things that goes in selecting a journal. For example, first you have to see what is the journal scientific level. Journal scientific level includes the quality of research articles, and who is the editor, who is the editorial board, and the background of the authors who routinely publishes in these journals, and what is the impact factor of this journal, and what is its international reputation and circulation, and who are the target audience for this journal, and whether what is the type of paper that the journal gets accepted, whether they accept only review or only full-length paper, or they accept both reviews as short communications as well as full-length paper. So you have to kind of dig deep and understand all these things. The next comes objective and scope of the journal. So objective and scope of journal includes areas of discipline, and what is the research topic and research subject that this journal covers, and as I said, whether it accepts only research article or a review or both, and whether this journal accepts only practical papers. Practical papers means your paper supported by a solid scientific data which is validated experimentally. And theoretical papers, as you all know, is just an hypothesis where you don't need much of your experimental data. So you have to see what is the scope of the journal. Next, the publication rate and interval of journal. So the time is key here, because in those days, but now most of the journals have improved the turnaround time, meaning from the time you submit your paper, you get the final decision within probably 3 to 4 weeks, whether your paper gets accepted by the journal or it's rejected, or you have to make some modifications. So time is essence. So you have to kind of pick and choose a journal where the turnaround time is high. And the publication rate, meaning whether the journal publishes the paper once in half a year, or once in a year, or once in a month. So choose a journal that publishes at a high rate. And next is, what is the type of article that the journal publishes, whether the format, the length, because there is a length limit. Some accepts the papers which are say 10-page limit or 5-page limit. So you have to see where does your article would fit in. So next is submission conditions, because there are some journals which says that okay, you can publish a data without much of the statistics, whereas some high quality journals, they need a good statistical data to supplement your claim. And there are some journals which says that you should be a member, in some professional membership requirement is necessary in order to publish in the journal. So you have to choose and pay charges, because some of the best journals, they charge you for the pages, and the charges are quite high. So you have to know whether you have a budget for publishing in those journals, because if you don't have a budget, then you have to aim for other set of journals which are public journals, which are open access, which are free of charge. Or there are some journals where there is fee, but it is much subsidized compared to other journals where the fees are really high. So you have to take into consideration of all these factors before you zero in on a particular journal where you want to publish your research article. Next comes journal ranking. So again, after choosing, in order to choose your journal, the ranking of the journal also plays an important role, or the criteria that you have to think about. What is this ranking all about? Ranking is nothing but it determines the impact and quality of the journal, and it's all about the reputation, the prestige of the journal, and also whether it is that will tell you how easy or how difficult it is to publish in that given journal. As I told you, the high impact journals are the ones which is the most widely reputed internationally and most widely circulated and read. It has a high regard among the researchers, like something like Nature, Science, PNAS, Plant Cell, Plant Journal, etc. And but those journals also have a very high rejection rate, because your data has to be high, world class, with scientific merit. And this journal ranking is usually measured by what is called impact factor. As I said, some of the high journals, like impact factor journals like Nature and Science, they have very high impact factor of 17, 20, 30, which is really good. And journals with the high impact factor are in general considered more prestigious than with a lower score. And what is this impact factor? How it's calculated? The impact factor is calculated based on a 3-year period, and it's considered as the number of times the papers are cited up to 2 years after publication. And when it comes to journals, most of them these days are peer reviewed, and some of them may not be, but usually when the journal is peer reviewed, that means the standard of the journal is very high. Because peer reviewed is, as I all know, when a researcher submits his paper to a peer reviewed journal, the editor first reviews that, and then he kinds of allocates that paper to to experts to review the content of the paper before making a decision whether it's accepted or rejected. So it is peer reviewed by experts. So peer review journal always has a high esteem. And everybody wants to publish in high impact journal. Why? Because when you get a paper accepted in a nature or science, that kinds of tells to the world about your caliber or your standard as a scientist and how good is your research. And also when you want to later, when it comes to employment jobs, when you have a lot of publications in these high impact journals that coming out of your research career, coming out of your PhD or coming out of your postdoc, that will kind of promote you or kind of put you in a good position for a good job later in an academia or in an industry. And those are weighed by the number of the high impact journals in which you have published. And also when you are a faculty, when you want to establish your own research facility, like in a university, you want to start a lab, then you need to write a grant and secure grant from funding agencies. So these funding agencies, one of the criteria they look for is how good is your scientific caliber, which is then automatically determined by the number of publications in high impact journals. For example, if there is a faculty who has say 20 publications, and most of them is in high impact journals like Nature, Science, PNAS, Plant Cell, and all the good ones, then there is another faculty who is also competing for the same grant. He also has same 20 publications, but the type of journal in which he has published is not high impact, it's only medium or low. Then the person with high impact journals is going to get the grant compared to the other person based on this criteria. So having publications in high impact journals, it will help boost one's career, and also it will kind of tell the world scientific community how good the person is when it comes to research and R&D. So next step, after going through all the steps in choosing a topic, choosing a journal, and choosing who is your target audience, and all going through after preliminary analysis of all these initial steps, the next comes the most important step of actual writing a research paper. So how to write and what are the things that you should be aware of or you should get ready before drafting a paper with your research data and with your thoughts and ideas. First is identify a topic of interest. Next, as I said, there will be many topics. You do all the analysis that was listed out in the previous slides, and finally you narrow down to a research topic and develop the research topic. By doing intensive research about the topic, collect all the background data, previous data that was published, and see how your data is different from already existing data on that given topic. And how do you and you have to have reliable sources, credible sources to gather all those data in the form of website, books, research papers, reviews, and other things. And they use journals, databases, books, media, catalog, internet, and various other resources to collect all your data and organize the data. And once you have the data, you have to evaluate the data and organize the information. And then once you have all the background material ready, then you start writing a paper. You draft your paper, and in addition to the words you write, a scientific research paper must include figures, right? Infographics, figures, and also and the scientific data which is supported by statistical analysis. So you do all these things and get ready with that, and then make notes, and then create an outline of the paper. So when you have all this background information ready, then you start writing a paper, then you create an outline. So what you want to write about, so what is that you want to put in materials and methods, what is that you want to put in an introduction, so what is that you want to put in, say, a conclusion or a discussion, so introduction. So just create a rough outline of all these things and just put your thoughts in that, so that you can later elaborate. And once you have gathered all this information, then you elaborate the points you have collected, and then get the first in draft of your paper ready. And then you go back and improve on the draft multiple times by editing and improving the quality and seeking experts advice, and also self-analysis. So once after going through all these things, there will be multiple rounds of improvement. From the time you write the first draft, there will be at least 5, even 10 times of improvement of your paper by gathering all the feedback from your peers, from your supervisors, from your advisors, and from your own analysis. You add everything into that before the final paper takes shape, which will be ultimately ready for submission to the given journal that you have selected. So there are multiple steps. It takes a lot of time. So you have to spend a lot of focused time in order to write a full-length research paper. The same thing goes to review, because a review is a little bit different from research paper, because in research paper you put your data, your ideas, and then compare with what is being done. In the case of review, we collect what was done on a given topic by all the people across the board until the point you write. So you have to dig a deep dive in research into what was done on a given topic worldwide until the point until the time you started writing. So you have to do a thorough analysis. So in the case of review, again, it's more or less similar. You identify your topic and then review your discipline style and do a deep dive search in the literature, collect all the information that's around there on the particular topic, and then references, and then you do an analysis of all the data, all the papers you have collected, and you kind of organize and draft an outline, and then elaborate on the points you have gathered, and then get the final review in shape. And this again this review paper will have an initial draft which will be improved 5 times, even 10 times upon by gathering feedback from other people, by your own analysis, and so on and so forth. And finally you get the review in shape, and again it will be thoroughly analyzed before it is submitted for a review publication in a given journal. So it takes a lot of time. And nowadays, unlike say 20 years back, there were not much digital tools to help write a research paper or to help researchers in general. There were a few at the time, but unlike today the world is different. Now it's a digital world. You have tons of digital tools to help researchers to write their research paper. It could be a review or a paper or a white paper or a blog or whatever they want to write. So it's all about, because today's research involves managing. It's a time management. It's a kind of a multitasking. You have to do various tasks, like you have to organize your experiment, do the research, gather the data, analyze the data, and document that, so which is publication worthy. So it's all involves a lot of planning, organization, this involves time. So that's where the digital tools helps you. You don't do it manually anymore. There are many tools that can kind of automate your task. So I listed some of the digital tools, but there are very many out there, and depending on one's preference and how good it is, people can choose from a variety of digital tools for a given purpose. For example, for a project management, you have something like Trello and Gantt Pro. And for words, because the number of words, word limit is important criteria for a journal, right? You cannot write as you like. For example, if the abstract is if the journal says your abstract or the introduction or summary is limited to 1,000 words, you have to stick to that. You cannot write 1,500 words. So these word counters will help you in that. After you write a draft, you just use this software, and it's going to tell you, okay, your abstract is now 1,500 words. That means you have to work on that to get to 1,000 words. So these tools will help you. Again, you check your grammar by using Grammarly or other softwares. And reference is key in any type of research communication. It could be journal research full-length paper for a journal, or a review paper. At the end of the last part in a research communication is the references. And this reference management tools like EndNote, Winly, this is going to help you to put all the references in a given order in a given format, because the format of references varies from journal to journal. So again, these softwares will kind of help you to put your references in a given format according to the journal you have chosen. And plagiarism is another important thing these days. So whether there is anything there in your paper, it can be checked. And the journal finder, how to find a journal, and you have many softwares like Elsevier Journal or Open Access Journal Finder, and the social networking for academics. And when you want to find out research papers, when you have an account in ResearchGate or academia, it's going to help you to find out what about the research papers that is published, that is available free of charge. And databases, because these days many of the research paper as data, right? Data in the form molecular data, and the database mentioned like NCBI, EMBL, say database of Japan. So all and many others, they're going to help you to kind of organize your data or cite us even as a reference. So all these digital tools these days are of major help to researchers worldwide in organizing the data and to kind of manage their time. And format, because if you take a journal, they have their own format. You have to write your research article should fit into the format that is being asked for by a given journal. Because when you take a journal, they're going to give you the policy, so you have to read through the policy in which way they want your paper to be written. Most of the journals, there are some exceptions of course, but most of the journals fit into what is called as IMRAD. IMRAD is Introduction, Materials, Results and Discussion. So introduction, if you take introduction, so what is that you want to put in introduction? It's about background, objectives, and what led to the work you are trying to describe. And materials, as everybody know, what is that you use to run an experiment? What was all the materials used to run an experiment? You have to put in the material. And methods is nothing like a protocol. What is the protocol you followed in order to do that experiment? And then results. Results is what happened, what is the data you got after doing an experiment. So you have to put in the result section. Next come discussion. So you have to kind of discuss your results in the context of what was done previously and how it is relevant now, and what it is even new in this particular data compared to what was available. And based on all the results and discussion, what is that you are trying to conclude? What is the implication of results? And that comes in the conclusion parts. And then your acknowledgements, and those are who are all the people who helped you with this. For somebody who funded you, some collaborator who helped you with this, with that. So you have to write everybody in the acknowledgement section. And finally, as I told you, the references, the papers that is being cited, the authors that's being cited should be in the references, and on all these things should be in a given format as prescribed by the given journal. You cannot deviate from that. And after doing so these are some of the steps one has to go through in writing a research paper. And one or two, while writing a research paper or even before starting a research paper, one has to understand what is that they can do and what is that they cannot do in writing a research or review paper. So which is classified as do's and don't do's. Do's are one, first, after selecting a journal, go through the journal very clearly, particularly the instructions like how many pages your research article should be, what is the font you should use, and what is the format, and what is the style. So all these things you should do. For example, you can go to the instructions and then you print a few research papers that is published in that particular journal. So going through the research papers will give you an idea how the research is presented for that particular journal. So you have to get that in your mind before you start. And then select the research topic that is custom and aligned to that particular journal. And then your writing should be very precise and avoid jargons. And the method of research should be very clear. The materials and method sections should be very, very clear to the readers. And don't always use just short or long sentences in writing a paper. It's a mixture of both. And most importantly, there should not be any spelling or grammatical errors. That's why these software digital tools will help you to check spelling and to check the words and to check the grammar in your writing. And it's not that you generating data for research paper is very important, but also important is organizing the data, because if your data is not organized, you cannot use the data in an efficient or the right way in writing the paper. And then the data you have generated has to be validated multiple times. It's not like that one time or two times if you get a data that's good enough on a paper. That data has to be validated multiple times so that you have confidence in presenting the data to the journal for wider audiences. Again, references are key. You cannot afford to miss any key paper that is relevant to the topic you are writing, because if that is done, that will tell you that you have not did the proper research on the given topic. That will be a very bad precedence for an editor or reviewer who kind of review this paper. They're going to cite you that you missed this paper, which is really very bad. You cannot do that. So you have to spend a lot of time in analyzing the references, and you should not afford to miss any key references that is relevant to the topic. And discussion part in your research paper should be really solid. So you should discuss in such a way that you have to present your research in the context of what was already being done up to the point, and what is that unique that you are trying to project compared to others. So discussion should be really good, and conclusion should be captivating. What is that you are trying to conclude based on your research? What is that you are trying to tell to the audience? So the conclusion should be crisp and precise. And before you even ready for the submission of article, you have to proofread and edit all your articles so that there is no mistakes, grammars, word limit, paragraph limit, style, font, everything has to be crystal clear. And it's not, and you might have read your papers 10 times, 20 times, okay, but you have to, if there is anybody, peers or any advisor or anybody experienced, you can ask them to read your paper for your feedback, because they can see your article in a different eye, that you might have missed some points they could catch, so that will be good for you to kind of add those before you submit. So these are some of the do's. There are many others, of course. These are just some of the do's I picked up. And there are also some of don't do's, which you should not do or avoid doing that. One is, don't include any claims into your paper without being validated by scientific data. Don't just throw something and throw your ideas without a scientific data. That will not be accepted. And don't include some unnecessary details, again without not backed by data, and any information that is not relevant to the scientific question that's being asked and being written in the paper. And no plagiarisms, and not to exceed word count. And you have to give due author credits for those who contribute to the paper. You cannot afford to miss any of them or their contribution. And also not to miss any reference or any citation. That's very, very important. If you keep missing key references, citations, it's totally not good. And it will be even picked by the reviewer, because they are experts. They know who is doing what kind of work. They will immediately pick on you. So that is not a good thing for so include all the key references. And the mistake in position of the authors, when you have, say, 10 authors contributing to the paper, the position of that is the first author, second author, or the last author, those things has to be decided before, and has to be clearly marked. You cannot make mistake in the position level of the authors. And don't forget to get feedback from your collaborators. That's very important. And you cannot afford to include comments or edits from collaborating partners, because most of the research these days are not done by a single lab or a single person. It's done in collaboration, multiple partners, right? Some of the research is done by the main place, some of them is done in some other place. So it's about getting feedback and getting data organized from your collaborating partners, and you have to include their point of view in the paper. Also, you have to include their feedback. And when it comes to conclusion, the conclusion should be based on what the research that was done or presented by you in the paper, and not adding any new points, just based on theory. And the materials and methods, as I told you, is again important, because the people who are trying to follow your paper, or the target audience, is going to go through materials method, find out what you used in order to generate the data. So that has to be kind of very clear. Otherwise, the people will be a little bit confused about how did you generate the data, and what are the type of method you followed, and what are the type of materials you used to run the experiment. So all these things are very important, and these are some of the things we should take in your mind, that not to miss, or while writing a research paper, or even while starting and doing an experiment. So these are some of the do's and don't do's, and there are many, of course. I just pointed out a few things. So these are some of the things in general in writing a research paper. Of course, there are many others. I tried to pick in some of the key ones which I followed when I used to write a research paper when I was in R&D in universities, probably 10 years ago. So with that, I would like to conclude my talk. And again, I thank Utkarsha and Just Agricultural team for having me and for extending invite. I'm always happy to come here and share my experience and whatever I have learned, and I'm in the process of learning every single day in the agri food tech space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful time with you, sir. I'm sure that the discussion you made is surely helpful to our participants. So we have a dynamic audience with us, like faculty members are there, researchers are there, early scientists are there, then MSc PhD students are also there. So I have got a few questions, sir. So with your due permission, shall I ask?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. So the first question is, maybe you have answered this question, sir, earlier, but the question is, what is the difference in writing approaches in case of book chapters, review paper, research papers, and articles, sir? Also, there is a sub question like how they are different with each other, and why articles are sometimes called as popular articles, sir?
Okay, that's a good question. As I pointed out in some of the slides, each one of them, it could be a full-length journal or a review paper or a white paper or a blog. Each one of the research communication is different. They have their own style. For example, a word limit, page limit, style, each one of them is different. For example, if you take a research paper in a journal like Nature or Science or something like that, compared to a review published in, say, annual review of pathology or annual review of physiology, something like that, if you see, if you take a printout, or if you can compare a soft copy of both, you can see the style in which it's narrated. For example, in journal, you have a standard thing like summary, introduction, and then you have materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion, references. This is a general standard, IMRAD, like I told you, in the IMRAD format for most of the journals. When you go to the review paper, it's not like that. When you see how a review is written, it's not like introduction, results, and discussions like in a journal. It's a different format. Like there they go, they give introduction, and then they go deep dive into what was done in each of this given topic by all the people until the point you are writing. On all the past 20-30 years, they accumulate all the data and they split it. So it's a little bit different narrative. In the case of journal, you are talking about your own research. In the case of review, it's about all the other people's research for a given topic. So they are a little bit different. When it comes to, for example, say a white paper, which is about 4 or 5, some white paper even 10 pages, there it's all about white paper mostly comes from an industry. Usually it comes from industry, kind of summarizing what's going on in a given landscape for a given technology, or even from a broader perspective about a given landscape, like what is going on in ag tech, for example, in a given landscape. Or say you take about gene editing, somebody writes white paper on gene editing, then they write what is the current stage of the gene editing and how it is viewed globally from a different standpoint. So each one of them has different format, and one has to kind of that's why one has to take some sample papers from a journal, from a review, and then go through that, so they'll get a picture of how it is narrated. Then they can kind of analyze and make a conclusion whether they want to write a research paper or a review to kind of communicate what their ideas are, their thoughts. And So what was the other question, please?
Sir, how a research article is different from a popular article, sir?
Yeah, research article is usually generally validated by data. Yeah, because when you take a scientific research article, any article, particularly if you take an ag tech or agri-food tech space, so if you go deep and see what is there inside the research article, you cannot just express your thoughts alone there. It is backed by scientific data. There is a given topic, you have done a research, you have done an experiment in the lab, you have collected the data, analyzed, and you have supported the claim. Whatever you are claiming is validated by your data. It's all data based. Popular articles is an idea based in general. It's not necessary to kind of express or validate your ideas by data, backed by data. Whereas in journal or research article, it's pure data. Everything has to be data, and even not just presenting a data is not enough. It has to be validated by statistical claim. You say that, okay, say for example, I'm comparing my own experiment, and then I'm saying that, okay, this is better. How it is better? Then you have to present how it is better. You cannot just say it's good or better or something like that. You say how it is better, how it's good. That's where the statistics comes. You apply the statistics, say that, okay, my research says that my experiment says that this is 5%, 10% more. If for example, if I do this seed treatment with this chemical or with this organism microbe, the yield in the plant is raising. The amount of yield in rice or corn is 10% more with my treatment compared to the control. So what is this 10% or 5% means? How to prove that? That's where you bring in the data and do the statistics and show. So it's all database. The popular articles is not like that.
Sir. Thank you so much, sir. So another question is, actually, sir, it takes so much time to publish a paper sometimes, and delay in publishing the paper can be the cause of its rejection, or quality papers are always accepted. So what's your take on this, sir?
Yes, yeah, that's why you should select. Fortunately, compared to 20 years back, now I'm not saying everything. There are exceptions, of course. Most of the journals, particularly the good ones, they are all, the turnaround time is quick. Meaning when you write and finally submit, when you click submit, when you upload into the website, their website, usually, because I'm now reviewing many journals, for articles for many journals, so I see that 3 weeks to 4 weeks is the turnaround time now. From the time you submit, 1 month you wait, you're going to get an email from an editor saying that whether they already accepted your paper for publication, article for publication, or straight away rejected after reviewing. I mean, after going through the reviewers, or the reviewers are okay with your paper, but they want more data, still more data before they say, okay, it's okay for publication. There are 3 ways, and there's one more thing. The editor, because usually you submit the paper, the editor is going to send you an email. Okay, we got your paper, and we will review that. But sometimes the editor rejects right there. He doesn't even submit your paper or give a chance for the reviewers to review. Editor decides right there. Within 24 hours, you get a mail saying that your paper is rejected. So usually you have to kind of choose a journal where the turnaround time is quick, so that you get an answer whether it's accepted or rejected, so that you can modify your contents, you can approach other journal for publication. So don't ever go for journals which has a huge, I would say, turnaround time. Its turnaround time should be short and quick. And also the publication rate. For example, you cannot afford to go for a journal which publishes only once in a year. Then that means your waiting time is too long. So many things could happen within the waiting time, because things move very fast these days compared to some 20-30 years back. So you have to apply all these criteria that, as I listed in the slide, in order to choose a journal that will fit to your research ideas. And at the same time, there's some good impact also. At the same time, the turnaround time also is quick.
Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is how to improve our resume as a faculty or a young aspiring researcher.
That's a very good question. A resume is very important. As I said, particularly people who are in academia, because it depends on the researcher interest, whether he or she wants to develop a career in academia, like an assistant professor and to become a professor in a university or a non-profit, or you want to work in the industry as a scientist, senior scientist, or a team leader, something like that. There are two branches. Particularly when somebody wants to work in academia, when they want to become a faculty in a university or a college or non-profit, one of the key is to publish. That's the number one. You are kind of measured by the amount of publications you have, not only the number, the quality. For example, you can have just 10 publications, but somebody can have 100. But the person who has 10, if all the 10 is in nature, science, PNAs, that is more valid than somebody who has 100 publications in journals which has a very low impact factor, which is not even known to the international community. So that is not good. So it's not about the number, it's more about the quality. Quality is the key there, with a very high impact. And also your reputation as a scientist. For example, if somebody mentions your name, then your name has to be automatically recognized. How does that happen? It's not just merely based on your publication alone. It's based on your networking. You should develop a network. It's not like that you keep on publishing in very good journals, that automatically you are going to get. Of course, publishing your paper, getting your name in Nature and Science is going to have a very high impact, but that alone is not enough. On top of that, you should develop a very high networking skills, so that you network and then you kind of put your name everywhere by attending conferences, by giving speeches in events, webinars, whatever the way it is, virtual or in person. So you develop networking, because these days networking is the number one. In addition to your own qualification, professional qualification, it is the networking that's going to land you in a job. That's the number one requirement, in addition to your own qualification.
Thank you, sir. So maybe this question is not fitting in the today's domain.
That's fine.
But the question is, what are the skills to improve in research fields like data analyst or statisticians? So what are the soft skills that we need to acquire, sir?
Oh, yeah. In any data analyst or statistics, or even outside of that, in anything, technical skills are very important. You should be good in what you do. It could be like a data analyst or a statistician or an experimental scientist in the lab, or a faculty teaching to students in a college or a university. It doesn't matter what you do, actually. The hardcore technical skills you should gain. But in addition to that, soft skills, because nowadays soft skills overtakes the hard skills. That is general trend in employment in any sector, wherever you go, doesn't matter. First is speaking ability, like how good you are in communicating whatever the thoughts you have in a crystal clear way, so that the target audience can receive your information and understand, right? So speaking ability, communicating ability in any form, writing,